Welcome to the channel. Welcome back if you are a current subscriber. Today I'm analyzing the body language of two separate people to show people who are out of touch with reality and people who are not. These interrogations come from a channel called Stranger Stories. I will leave the link to this channel in the description box below. Let's get started.
So I want to talk to you about what happened, like why we're here to begin with. Before we do that, I do have to run through this form to ask you a bunch of questions. That way you and I understand each other and that way we're on the same page, okay?
No, I haven't slept in days.
5:26. How long you been sleeping?
Get all these pains I'm experiencing my now. These headaches and I feel like my body is on fire. I've been going through it for like 2 years.
Wow.
Off and on.
Just burning and all. Is it starting in your head or where's it starting at?
Right now, it's in my arms.
Okay. What happens when you feel that? Do you black out or do you remember or do you...
It's hard for me to remember a lot of stuff when I haven't slept.
Yeah.
In days. I don't even know how many days it's been.
Okay. So you've been feeling this for days?
Quite a few things to note here. First, the interrogators have to operate as if this might be someone manipulative, because very frequently they see people who are trying to plead insanity, trying to behave as if they're insane so that they get away with lesser of a charge. This woman that we are seeing here, I believe her name is Sheree. She is her sister. She's claiming that she has not slept in days. You're going to see her start to say a lot of bizarre things here and there sporadically throughout this interrogation. And I'm not going to show the entire interrogation, but parts where she's acting insane. And the question becomes, is she just acting to get lesser of a charge, or is she truly, genuinely out of touch with reality here? I want to note non-verbally, she has that barrier, that arm across here, but she does lean forward, more attentive when the interrogator starts to ask questions. Someone who is behaving as if they're out of touch with reality and not actually out of touch with reality would not be as attentive, would be more defensive, but does not necessarily indicate she is trying to manipulate this interrogator. She is attentive, attempting to cooperate. So we don't really know right off the bat if she's acting or not, but non-verbally, there are signs that she really is out of touch with reality and really has not slept in days. There's no dopamine release. There's no smirking, nothing going on. Now, with the camera angle and her head being down a bit and turned away at times, it can be difficult to tell for sure, but I'm just personally not seeing a lot of non-verbal cues that this is an act. There's downward glabella furrowing there, real grief muscles, and no indications that there's any kind of dopamine release involved in trying to fool these interrogators, which we would normally see. We're also seeing illustrators, adapters, and eyebrow flashes where we should see them. Adapters would be more like self-soothing behavior as we see there, or her illustrating, her emphasizing what's taking place and her point, it's in relation to what she's saying, and we're seeing a lot of that where we should see it. And later on in this video, I'm going to show you what it looks like when someone is actually just faking it. But again, keep in mind, these interrogators have to assume that this person is pretending to be insane to get a lesser charge, because that's what they most likely are more accustomed to.
Sheree, I know when you, from what I know, you called police today, and made some statements about, I believe you said something like, I killed my sister, and I know you told the call taker that you choked her. Do you want to talk about that with us and kind of explain to us what happened with that whole situation? Because we want to hear, what you have to say, and all we have to kind of go on is what we're seeing out at the crime scene, at the house. And I understand you probably have a lot to tell us with everything. You said you've been struggling for 2 years. And we just want to hear kind of more about your story and what happened today.
One thing, of course, is her looking up, staring up, and then a bit of a blink rate. It's a normal blink rate. It's not rapid blinking. There's no lack of blink rate there. Just a normal blink rate as she's staring up. And it looks pretty bizarre because this isn't normal eye accessing, thinking about things, recalling information, calculating something. It's not downwards. It's not emotional. It's upwards. It's pretty bizarre. But keep in mind, this is someone who has potentially not slept for days, might be on a substance, and then we see her shift in her seat when the interrogator asks her, would you like to explain what took place? We don't see any real movement when it's being discussed that she has called the police, admitted to her sister. And we're not seeing a lot happen there, but then when the interrogator asks her, would you like to explain what took place? We're seeing an adapter there, and then we're seeing her move around in her chair. But also keep in mind, prior to this, she had told the interrogator she wanted water, she was uncomfortable, she'd been there a long time. All of this could contribute to her just moving around in her chair that moment, but her bizarre staring upwards at the ceiling indicates something else is going on there, and her lack of a smirk or anything expressing that this is her believing this was comical or her trying to fool the interrogators indicates, of course, non-verbally, this is not an act. And that adapter, that self-soother there, where she's both present and then switches to no longer being fully there. And we're very much seeing that nonverbal, that shift between uncomfortable, moving in her seat, and then her staring at the ceiling. But it becomes obvious this is not just an act. There's no smirk. There's no indication that she's just trying to fool these interrogators.
What will she do?
When you said you were trying to escape, were you saying you're trying to escape the house today, or what were you referring to?
Well, there's a bounty on my head.
Why'd you say that?
Sheree, here's the thing. At the end of the day, you called the police. You told them I killed my sister.
A few things I want to note here is there's obvious lethargy. She's been up for a long time, so she doesn't have a lot of energy. There are, again, instances where it seems she is very much present. She moves things around. She is uncomfortable. She's aware that she's in a situation where things are not only uncomfortable, but she could be in huge amounts of trouble. And there are instances where she seems defensive or seems to understand that she's in some legal trouble. She says things along the lines of, I have a bounty on my head. I'm going to be electrocuted. So I'll leave the full video of this in the description box. Bits here and there where it says some things that seem bizarre, but also at the same time understands there's some legal trouble here. And she, at one point, tells these interrogators that no, she does not wish to speak to them, but then continues to speak to them. But this isn't someone who has duper's delight or any indications that she's just trying to fool the interrogators. There's this bizarre staring up at the ceiling, perhaps trying to stay awake, and then looking down at times, and then that moving of the water bottle, lip compressions as she says, there's a bounty on my head, perhaps feeling a bit of discomfort at this idea that maybe she won't be believed. Perhaps she feels she won't be believed by these interrogators, or she knows that they don't believe that she has been awake for days and is out of touch with reality, doesn't fully understand why she did what she did, where she ended the life of her sister. And the interrogators have to figure out whether she's faking it all or not. But non-verbally, she's just indicating she's uncomfortable. She's been there a long time. She hasn't been asleep in days. She is in legal trouble. She had told them she didn't want to speak. And we're seeing more of that than indications that she's being manipulative, that she's perhaps someone who has antisocial personality disorder, someone who is just genuinely cruel or aggressive or defensive. We're not seeing a lot of nonverbal clusters or indications of that in most of this interrogation.
In there. And then I'll take her to my car. Yeah.
I have cats. I have to. They
Unfortunately, ma'am, this is an active investigation. Okay, so
Can I
nobody's
lock
going back
the
in the
door
house.
somehow?
No, this is a crime scene at this point.
How's my house?
There's a deceased person in your garage. That's why it's a crime
There's
scene.
a body in it?
Yes.
I said earlier that both videos would come from Stranger Stories. Actually, this one's from a channel called Sergeant Pepper Spray. So I will also leave the link to that full video and channel below in the description box. But what we're seeing here is someone I believe named Kiara, who is going to later fake a diagnosis of DID. She's going to pretend that she has all of these parts and she's shifting and doing all the stuff that I'm going to explain whether she really is or really is not doing. But again, this is an analysis of someone out of touch with reality versus someone who actually is not and who is faking it. And the first clue here is when the officers explain to the older woman that this is a crime scene because there has been a deceased person found in the garage, instead of acting shocked or pretending to shift or dissociating or anything going on there, her initial reaction is to stare up at the older lady to perhaps see if there is some sort of reaction, shock or anger from the older lady and not necessarily confusion, anger, or act crazy or anything that we should see there. In other words, this is not someone who is jarred or shocked or confused by what just was stated, what took place. She instead is more focused on the reaction of the older lady, who I believe is her mother, but I'm not fully sure. Now, when I say shift, I mean people with a DID diagnosis, which is itself not believed by many psychiatrists to even exist, to even be a diagnosis, a real diagnosis. But people who claim they have that diagnosis or do have that diagnosis say that they shift between parts. This is an instance where someone will dissociate. They'll completely not be fully present in the moment and know anything about their surroundings. And then suddenly another part of them, another fragment of their brain, will become present, be more fully in the moment. That they will shift from one personality to another, and it used to be called multiple personality disorder. Usually this will be someone who has a younger part, an older part, a part that's not human, and it's just fragments of the brain trying to process something horrific that took place.
You were popular when we get. Sorry.
Who are you talking to?
My best guess is that I have DID, but I'm not 100% certain.
What's DID?
Dissociative identity disorder. I haven't had it actually diagnosed, but that's my best guess from my research. There are different personalities that come out.
Do you have names for them?
Some of them, yeah.
What are their names?
There's Abby, and then there's, we call her Jinx, because people saying her real name.
Jinx.
Yeah. If you say her real name, she's mad. And there's one personality that I haven't seen in a long time. Like, I haven't communicated with.
So this is someone who very much loves attention, of course. I'm going to say allegedly, but just non-verbally, that's what we're seeing. Someone who is very outward with expressing that they've got these parts of themselves. They have this diagnosis that hasn't been a formal diagnosis for them. Their movements are very controlled. Part of DID is someone who is dissociating. That's very much part of the disorder. You're going to see dissociation when someone makes that shift, not someone very obviously pointing at themselves and then making sure there's some sort of reaction from who they're speaking to. There's no indications of discomfort. We're not seeing a rapid blink rate or any indication that she feels ashamed or guilty or any discomfort around this diagnosis that we would typically see, as most people with this diagnosis aren't as confident in talking about it, in speaking about it, especially since there are psychiatrists out there and people out there that would think they're crazy, that don't believe that that diagnosis even exists, that it's even a real thing. So we should see some indications of shame or discomfort, and not her chin being up, that vulnerable part of her body being exposed, and her not blinking at all as she's speaking and saying that she has this diagnosis, but it's not a formal diagnosis, that she has researched herself and guesses that she has this issue and she has these parts that she has named and not genuine parts of a disorder. So this is very much someone who more than likely is not out of touch with reality and also is faking a disorder that they don't genuinely have.
Reason why I never wanted to see Grace, but it pissed me off by bringing her to my house. She did something really stupid, and I wanted to see her change, and I wanted to see something happen where she would admit it, but she's just... Is she alive or dead?
Grace?
Yeah.
You know that?
I'm not sure.
What do you think?
Well, I'm partially hopeful for her to be dead, but I'm also, confused. I'm like...
What do you hope she's not?
I'm still angry at her, but I also have hope that she'd be better, but it's like this frustrating emotion that I can't seem to pinpoint.
So here we see her start to discuss her victim, who she's calling Grace, and she's pretending to act confused as if she doesn't really know whether her victim is dead or alive, but we don't see genuine nonverbal cues that she actually is confused. We do see that downward glabella furrowing, the muscle there between the eyebrows, but she's looking up, her chin's up. She doesn't feel ashamed or confused or in thought. There's nothing emotional going on there. She instead looks up, her chin is up, And then there's a lot of touching of the face and positive tonality. She's almost laughing about this entire thing. But she attempts to look confused as she asks, is she alive? And then she says she kind of wants her to be dead, as if she's undecided. But again, there's a lot of very controlled movements here, indications she's trying to control her emotions and not genuinely in confusion, grief, anger, no remorse, nothing going on that we should see. And she's certainly not out of touch with reality, especially in comparison to Sheree, who I showed prior, who genuinely seemed out of touch with reality, didn't seem fully present. There's shifting in and out of being present and mindful of the situation, being aware, and not and saying bizarre things. And we don't see that half laugh or any smirk or anything positive. We don't see remorse, but she also, at the same time, has indicated she's been awake for days and says some pretty bizarre things. She's staring up at the ceiling. A lot of very bizarre things going on that indicate more than not that she's not trying to fool the interrogators, as this teenager, Kiara, is currently doing, where there's half laughing, touching of the face, that emotional blocking there where she's pretending to be in distress or uncomfortable. And we see that all those barriers, all those indications, she's trying to distract and give herself time to come up with what she's going to say. What she lands on is pretending she doesn't know whether her victim is actually dead or not, even though at the scene, the police have told her that there's a deceased person in the garage. She very much is aware of that and looks at who I believe is her mother for some kind of reaction and does not look confused in that moment or out of touch with reality in that moment.
Back in 2016, there was a video floating around of a 14-year-old girl getting hard and another girl standing there collecting money from them. There were 16 or 17 guys involved.
What?
The girl giving money was Grace. The other one was me.
Sorry. That sounds like a difficult memory.
So virgins, we never got to.
Yeah. That's right. Thank you for sharing that. Tell us about me. It's something difficult to share, especially with a stranger.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I have a little bit of background of...
Why did I have her?
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
So now we're seeing genuine indications that she feels some shame. Again, we're not seeing remorse where we should see it. And we're definitely not seeing emphasis with eyebrow flashes where we should see it in the story that she has now concocted about her being a victim of something pretty terrible. We continue to see her basically stare down, a lack of blink rate, when she tells this interrogator that there is this video of a girl in this horrific situation and another girl there standing there, and she's listed ages, she's added that detail in and added the number of people involved. All of this without a blink rate, and her making sure there's some sort of reaction from the interrogator. She even takes pause when she says there were 16 or 17, making sure there's a reaction, some shock factor to this, or some sadness or grief from the interrogator, some empathy or sympathy that she could collect from this situation, from this story. There's also that referential shift where she goes from, there was this video, these people, this number, this what took place, and then that turns into her being the victim of that situation, and the person that she has ended the life of being the perpetrator, the person collecting money from this. But she does not stay in the right perspective for this to be her actual story, and there's no blink rate, no discomfort or shame until after she has told that story, and it perhaps not being true, her chin then goes down, there's labored breathing. Again, perhaps because she just told the story and put herself as the victim in a story that most likely, allegedly, was not hers. I don't like to deny someone else's experience, but what we're seeing non-verbally is that it isn't her experience, and she watches for this reaction from this interrogator, most likely not her own experience. And we're not seeing the real non-verbal indications that it genuinely is, and we're also not seeing dissociation and parts of a DID disorder and a shifting of parts that we saw prior that also was not genuine. I'm going to end this here. I would love to know your thoughts. Please let me know in the comment section. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching.